Hello and welcome to another Premier League preview. Hopefully you all had a fantastic Christmas. In this video I'm going to be going over Aston Villa against Brighton, which is a Monday night kickoff. Just 2 points separates these two teams in the league, so I'm expecting a fantastic game and I've got a few high value angles to cover. Starting on the side of Aston Villa, in the last couple of games we've seen Unai Emery opt for a slightly different system. One that has Kamara and Amadou Onana in the centre of midfield, with Tielemans playing a bit more advanced. We've seen Cash drop to a sort of more familiar right-back role, with McGinn shifting over to the right, Rodgers on the left, and John Duran up front. That's a system that really paid dividends against Man City, where they managed to pull off a 2-1 victory at home. However, last time out against Newcastle, it didn't quite go to plan. They lost 3-0, although they weren't helped by a first-half red card to John Duran. I'm going to assume Unai Emery persists with that system for this game against Brighton. I think it's clearly something that has potential. It could work very well. And that sort of red card last game was an unforeseen circumstance that clearly had a significant impact on the game. Moving on to Brighton, they were also afforded a bit of rotation midweek. They played out a 0-0 stalemate with Brentford, which was quite a disappointing result at home in the end. Although they were the dominant side, they had 24 shots. That only amounted to 1.31 XG, so nothing really significant there. And I would expect Fabian Hürzeler to sort of reintroduce Rutter into the lineup at least. I would also expect Minte to come back in on the right, and potentially even Yassin Ayari into midfield. So I'd expect a few changes for Brighton, so reverting to a more regular lineup that we've seen across the season so far. Now, with John Duran obviously suspended for 3 games, Ollie Watkins will naturally come back into the lineup. He played the second half against Newcastle at St James's Park, and in that game, he committed 2 fouls. My first angle for him is to commit 1 or more foul, which is priced at 1.67 with Paddy Power. Just looking into the hit rates for the season, this bet looks fantastic value. It's landed in 14 out of 19 in all competitions for Watkins this season when starting. 12 out of 15 league games when he's played at least 45 minutes. And it's landed in 7 out of 8 home games when he's played at least 30 minutes. So the hit rate looks fantastic, but what about the matchup against Brighton? If we look into how opposition strikers have fared in terms of committing fouls against the Seagulls, we can see in the last 3 games, Ioana Wissa made 2 fouls, Fulkrug made 3 fouls, Mateta made 3 fouls as well. Extending the sample size reveals that only 4 strikers in the last 15 games have failed to commit a foul against Brighton. So data looks fantastic. Clearly, opposition strikers are getting stuck in against them, and therefore the matchup looks fantastic as well. Obviously, 1.67 is a bit short to play as a single, but I'd be more intrigued on the higher lines for this bet. Moving on to a second potential angle. For me, all season, I've been targeting opposition midfielder fouls against Brighton, and that's mostly because of the duo of João Pedro and Rutter. Now, these two do tend to drop deeper into midfield looking to link the play, and they are extremely adept at winning fouls. You can see from the data, Pedro is averaging 2.4 fouls drawn per 90 this season, and Rutter 2.3 fouls drawn per 90 this season. And they do operate in a very similar zone of the field, and they draw a lot of duels from opposition midfielders. Now, assuming Onana and Kamara start again in that double pivot, those 2 players are of particular interest for me. Reason being, those 2 rank top for Aston Villa's fouls committed charts this season. Kamara is averaging 1.87 fouls per 90, over a slightly limited sample size in which he's just recently returned from injury, and Onana is averaging 2.01 fouls per 90. Now, we have very limited data when these 2 have started together. It's actually just the 2 games. One against City, in that game Kamara had 4 fouls, Onana had 3 fouls, and then against Newcastle, where Kamara had 0 fouls and Onana had 1 foul. Now, Kamara was substituted after 69 minutes in that game against Newcastle, which was affected by the red card. Onana, however, played the full 90 in each of his last 2 games since returning from injury. So I think Onana has the safer minutes floor for this one. However, just by looking at Kamara's data, we can see he had 4 fouls against Man City, 5 fouls against Southampton in recent weeks, so he has a bit more of the potential to hit the higher lines, I would say. What's also a bit more interesting about Kamara is if we look into those last 5 games, obviously he's had 3 blanks, and all 3 of those games were on the road. So when he plays at home, he seems to see quite a significant increase in fouls to 2.67 per 90, whereas Onana's Leicester side decreased to 1.9 per 90. So while Onana might have the safer minutes floor, I would say Kamara has the slightly better data. Moving on to the pricing, and it's actually Sky Bet who are relatively generous here. They're a lot bigger than Paddy Power for these foul markets. Amadou Onana is priced at 1.83 to commit 2 or more fouls, which I think looks really nice as a single. And Kamara is slightly shorter at 1.72. So I would say those are 2 fairly generous prices there. I like both of them, potentially to combine with something along the lines of Ruta to draw a foul, Pedro to draw a foul, just to boost those up to sort of above evens. But obviously Onana is the bigger price. I would say he looks slightly better value. Obviously by taking this with Sky, there's no insurance of the sort of super sub rule or anything like that, so that's just something to be a bit wary of. If you want to take Kamara, maybe he has slightly less secure minutes. However, I have mentioned that this is on the basis of Unai Emery going for the double pivot of Kamara and Onana. There is a sort of distinct chance that only one of the 2 starts and Tielemans sort of reverts to a deeper role. In that sense, or if that is the case, I would imagine it's Onana who starts. But whoever does sort of start of the 2, if one is to be dropped, the other one will take on the sort of role as a destroyer, which will make either of these 2 prices look fantastic value. But that will be all for this game. That's all the bets I wanted to cover. So just to recap, my first bet will be for Ollie Watkins to commit 1 or more fouls, priced at 1.67 with Paddy Power. Amadou Onana to commit 2 or more fouls at 1.83 with Sky Bet. And Boubacar Kamara to commit 2 or more fouls at 1.72 with Sky Bet. Best of luck for any bets you decide to go with. If you have any of your own angles you would like to share, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I would like to wish you all a very happy new year and thank you for the support over 2024.